Hello, Garland Nixon here with my guest, Dmitri Zolotarev. He is in Irkutsk, which is in eastern Siberia, and we're going to talk about the big stories in Russia. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and we've had Dmitri before, and with Inside Russia, we've talked about some Russian history. We've talked about what life was like in the Soviet Union. Got lots of questions. He's in Irkutsk, which is in eastern Siberia. So let's start here. The big story in Russia, the big news story. I understand that the Scott Ritter story is huge. Scott Ritter being taken off in an airplane, having his passport confiscated, etc. What's the talk about that in Russia?
This news and the talks about these events are overwhelming in Russia, and this subject is of huge interest. As you well, it's absolutely well known to you. Our mutual friend Scott is a big, huge media person, not only in Russia but all over the world now. So it's huge interest about him. So it was a shock, frankly. It was a shock for everybody. So people are talking about that. The people are interested. What's the story behind this? Everybody heard Scott's version, which I'm sorry for mentioning that. I translated his conversation with Jimmy Dore, where he explained his point on what is going on. And generally, I came up with the idea that they purpose not to allow him to go to St. Petersburg Economic Forum in the first place. So Scott made some peculiar details for all who are interested in his point of view. And if you haven't seen, go to Jimmy Dore's YouTube channel, and it's there. Just watch his interview in English. I translated it for Russian audience and voiced it over. So, and the thing is that people are not really exactly sure that this is it, that will end with. I generally believe, I want that to things to happen like in this way, this scenario. So they wait a while, and then they just give Scott his passport back and say, go wherever you want to go. So the forum's over, and there's no need to haul you. But there are lots of people who think here in Russia that there is no way Scott should try to go to Russia before the election in the United States. Because this is not only, well, it's dangerous. So that may provoke some other actions against him. Meaning that the media disturbance, which may be caused by Scott's visit, him speaking out and all, may do harm to certain people who have their interests in the outcome of this election. So I'm being careful. So I don't want to get you in trouble. So I'm speaking so that you and the audience will understand me, but not saying some details, some things. So, and people are worried. Lots of people say, Scott, come to Russia, so stay in Russia and you'll be safe here. But Scott said, I'm an American. I love America. I'm an American patriot. I love my country. One thing that I don't like is our political establishment. But things will change someday. So why should I change my country of residence? And lots of people respect him for that. And I love him for that, because he wouldn't be Scott if he didn't say and think so and feel so.
Right.
So And people also, well, there were expectations. People waited for him to come. He wanted to make this trip all over Russia after the forum and Moscow security conference. He wanted to visit lots of cities, making podcasts there and filming his documentary, which was really waited and expected in Russia, not only in Russia. It's very interesting. So yes, as one of ladies I know, Bright once said that I feel like I've been ripped off my New Year present. Well, lots of people in Russia feel just exactly like that. So yes, it's a huge story. Lots of speculations, which I don't want to just even mention here because those
Certainly.
speculations and they don't worth mentioning. They aren't worth mentioning. So I'm sorry for my English. Sometimes I'm doing terrible mistakes.
No, no, your
After all,
English.
after all, I'm just Russian.
Trust me, your English is a lot better than my Russian.
Oh, thank you, Garland. That's reassuring. That's reassuring. Okay, so there are always speculations. So no need to mention them. And I think that at some point, maybe in the end of the year, the things will come to normal, and I don't think that anything good will happen before November. Anyway, meanwhile, I hope that they return Scott his passport, well, soon, and maybe he will be able to go to this trip. But on the other hand, there are other complications about the trip, so it's up to Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. Um, uh, I wanted to ask you this: your thoughts on now the various what's the word I want to use? Um, different things going on as far as the Ukraine conflict, right? The
Mhm.
escalations. There's been one after another. We won't send tanks, they send tanks. We won't send planes, now they're going to send planes. We won't do this every time they say they won't do this. But I'll say this, the good thing is for all of the media about the escalations, none of them I mean, at this point, none of them have made a difference. You know what I mean? They been an aggravation? Yes. Have they been a problem? Yes. But none of them have had a serious material effect. The outcome of this conflict, Barack Obama said years ago, the Russians will always have escalatory dominance in Ukraine on their border, right? Your thoughts on the whole escalation ladder that's been going on and the danger of that?
Yeah, there's can be other opinion about that. There would be no escalation whatsoever if it was not for the West, for the West, collective West. The escalation started with the West section. So what they're saying, like, well, I want to quote Scott. He said just recently that those red lines, which were announced by the West, red lines, they are self-proclaimed. Let's say that. So some guys say we won't do this, and they do this, and then they say Putin did nothing. And Scott said a brilliant thing because it was not Putin's red line. Genius. These are words of genius.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Russia hasn't answered with something overwhelming and devastating, is because Putin's red line haven't been crossed yet. But they know what Putin's red lines are. They know exactly what they're doing. They are behaving like kids who are desperately desire their parents to do something, and they trying to, you know, okay, mom, you didn't agree to buy me a bike. I will do this, I will do that, and I'll get what I want. But in some point, mom turns around, pulls his pants down and doing you know what out, beating you know what out of him or her. That's what kids do. And now they're trying, doing that very carefully. What if we do this or we do that? And the thing is that basically they allowed Ukraine to hit Russia deep inside Russian territory. And basically, they allowed themselves to hit Russia inside Russian territory. What can Ukraine do without them? Without their intelligence, reconnaissance data, without their weapons, without their engineers, military engineers, setting the courses of those projectiles, those rockets, everything. Nothing. And I genuinely believe that those people, I mean military personnel, Western military personnel, are there on the land in Ukraine. They say we haven't sent anyone yet. Sure, officially not. But who are kidding? We understand everything. That means if they hit, well, they already hit. They destroyed a residential building in Lugansk, and it was a devastating hit. There was a devastating hit in Belgorod, where the whole residential block, I mean, not block, but the block of the building. We in Russia say block. So the residential section of the building was destroyed. So lots of people died there. And as far as we know, there was a hit on the radar stations in the Krasnodar region. So those radar stations were scanning not Ukrainian territory. Those were scanning other territory. And you know what they were scanning for? The nukes. These are long-range radar, which function is to detect the incoming nuclear projectile so we could intercept it. It is nothing to do with Ukraine. Nothing at all. So why they're hitting it? The question is why they're hitting it. That's because they are escalating. I don't know why they are playing with fire. Maybe they're so sure that there will be no response from Russia. I wouldn't believe. I wouldn't do such reckless thing. I wouldn't do such reckless thing as believing that Russia will not respond. It depends on what Russia has to respond. So what action? And if another military facility or civilian facility with serious casualties will be hit, so who knows? I believe that Russia can respond. And this will bring us to the brink of nuclear war. And you see, this is just the history does repeat itself. It does repeat itself. Well, stupidity in history repeats itself. And no one is learning from their actions.
Let me ask you a question. And this has been my position all along. You know, two people are fighting and one person is winning, and it's obvious that person's going to win. The other one gets desperate. They try anything to make the person change their tactics because they know they can't win, right? I think that's where we are. I think I've said this all along. I believe that President Putin and the leadership of Russia are wise enough to recognize this. They are on a path to victory, right? That what they're doing, it's been clear and obvious for a long time. What they're doing will win. I know it. You know it. And though they won't admit it, the Biden neocons all know it. Okay. I felt all along that they're acting out of desperation, right? We'll hit a building or kill some civilians. Maybe that'll make them do something different, right? And the Russian leadership is like, nope, you're not going to get us to change our path. we're winning and we're not going to change. Okay, we'll do this and then maybe you'll act. Nope. I felt all along that a lot of these types of things are desperation acts. They know that the course that the Russian leadership on is a victorious course. Diplomatically, the Russians are winning. Economically, the Russians are winning. Militarily, the Russians are winning. The Russians don't have to do anything different to continue winning. And in fact, if they do, the only way they could lose, which they won't, would be by doing something different. So I felt like this. This is what I've said. If I were the Russian leadership, I'd say, you can do things that are bother me. Okay, I'll hit some Ukrainian electrical plants and turn off their power. I'll do something like that. But the fact of the matter is, I feel like all along, out of desperation, they've been trying to bait to get Russia to do something different, anything different, because they know that the course that the Russians on are victorious. And basically, the Russians will absorb a hit here and there. You know, you're winning a fight. Somebody hits you. Well, that ain't enough. You're going to take a punch. I've said when it comes to self-defense, one of the things that people have to learn in self-defense is you're going to get hit. You have to take a punch. And that history tells us Russia knows how to take a punch. Russia has been hit hard before and has won anyway, right? What are your thoughts on my position that if I were the leadership of Russia, when they did this and that and tried to provoke me in a response, I wouldn't respond. I'd keep doing what I'm doing. And I would say, you can try out of desperation to get me to do something different. It's not going to work. I know I'm winning. You know I'm winning. And I'm not going to change a formula that is taking me to the victory. Your thoughts?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll tell you what are the ways of winning a fight, and why they are doing what they are doing, and what Russia, I believe, will never do, and why. The thing is, there are a few ways to win a fight. Just to stay there and fight, honestly. Like in the box, you know? So there is another way. If you're going down and you feel that you cannot win, is another way, well, to end the fight without getting killed. Say, okay, your conditions. Okay, man, there was your conditions. Okay. It doesn't matter who is right, me or you. I can't win. What's your conditions? What are your conditions? And the other way, you pull a knife or a gun, and there is no guarantee you can use, but whether a gun or a knife, you can harm your opponent, and there is no way to say anymore, okay, what's your conditions? What are your conditions? You are getting killed. You're going down because you pulled a knife, you tried to kill. So this is not an honest way to do. And so you get what you get. So I think Ukraine has chosen the third way long ago. Well, maybe not chosen. Maybe it was Ukraine was made to choose this way. Well, we know. Oh, we all know what the ways are, and it doesn't matter. The thing is, why they are hitting Russia, hitting residential buildings. Well, first of all, Russia doesn't do it on purpose. Yes, it's war, and sometimes residential buildings get hit. It's war, but not intentionally. I know for sure that Russian army does everything it can do not to harm civilians and to do everything to minimize the collateral damage. But when Ukrainians do that, they do it on purpose. Why? Let's kill some civilians. And maybe there will be outrage in Russia and they will say enough is enough, Putin must go, things like that. I don't know why. Really, I just can't find an answer. Why they cannot understand. It's not gonna happen. The stronger they hit Russia, the stronger people are standing for Putin. You see? So people see what's right and what is wrong and what's Putin's fault, what's not. People don't are not blind. In the United States, in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Rwanda, in Russia, in China, people are not blind. They are not stupid. It's a wrong way to think that people are stupid and you could do things like that to turn people against their leader. There is no way to do that. So I genuinely believe that Russia is not going to use nukes. I don't talk about strategic nuclear weapons. I'm talking about tactical nuclear weapons. Why? What's the point? Russia does have enough really good and effective conventional weapons to accomplish all the tasks, all the tactical tasks. And I genuinely believe, because I used to be trained as an officer long ago, long ago. So I know exactly that conventional weapons sometimes hits more effective and pains in this certain point way more effective than nuclear weapon. Even small effect, bringing small effect does. And nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear weapons, they have very specific point of views, which you cannot find this time. So then we are talking about, well, strategic weapons. Russia won't do that. There is no task which Russia cannot achieve or accomplish using conventional weapons. So this talk about nuclear war, I believe, well, it's more to sober the minds of Western leaders. Yes, you are provoking. If you are provoking, so who knows? Maybe you will use nuclear weapons. Well, if they do, then Russia may respond. It depends on what they do, what type of nuclear weapons they use. And, I genuinely believe that this war wouldn't start if Zelensky, in particular, not under one condition, but also he was talking about, in 2022, he was talking about Ukraine becoming a nuclear state again. You see, what is this? This means we are not here. So we are not here. Enough is enough. So that's what was maybe the last straw in 2022. That's why I believe, in particular, this whole thing started, and maybe in general, because we knew pretty well. It's about days, maybe, when Ukraine not becoming officially a nuclear state yet might have those nukes already on its territory. I believe they were just about to supply those nukes secretly, and then later say we are becoming nuclear state. They would already have them battle ready. So, and they escalate also, Garland, because they are desperate about Odessa and Nikolaev. They're desperate about Ukrainian part of Black Sea coast. So they understand that in some point of time, Odessa and Nikolaev will fall. And they escalated this up to that point when there is no way, I believe, Russia would stop before Odessa and Nikolaev. It's not 2014 when Donetsk Republic under Russia's command stopped right next to Mariupol. They didn't enter Mariupol, and Russians said, "Stop it! If you enter the Mariupol, some catastrophic thing might happen, which we cannot reverse." So now there is a completely different situation, and the West is desperate that Russia soon will be controlling the whole part of Ukrainian Black Sea coast, linking the territory with Transnistria, which, which, which makes what? Russian army is on the other part of the EU's border. Moldova, Romania are close. Transnistria now will be different when Russian army reaches Transnistria. Will be two different territories. Transnistria is strong. It has army. It can defend itself for a while, maybe, but they understand pretty well. If Russia takes Odessa and Nikolaev, Transnistria will be Russia. This whole territory will be Russian. And this is an absolutely different picture for them. They were thinking they getting closer NATO is getting closer to Russian border. Now Russia is getting closer to their border, which they desperately don't want. And that's why this whole thing is happening. They're just desperate. They don't care about Ukraine. They don't care about any Ukrainian life. They're just trying to use, well, unless the man falls, you can use him. So Ukrainian man hasn't fallen yet. So they are desperately using him. And I believe it will take rather long time. Some people say that Russia's military will be close to Kiev till November. Frankly, I doubt that. There is there are no plans like that, and Putin doesn't want that. But it depends on how NATO and the collective West act on Ukraine, on Ukrainian territory. If they do what they do, who knows? Maybe, well, somewhere around the end of the year, Russian military will reach Kiev. So
I think that my opinion is this at this point. Russia understands the history of how the U.S. empire uses leverage, geographical leverage against them. And they understand that this time they've got to do everything within their power to strengthen their hand. You know what I mean? To strengthen their defensive abilities on their border. If not now, when? Right? So if I'm in charge of Russia, they've used Odessa as a platform to attack Russia.
Absolutely.
And if this ended, let's say they came to a agreed end, they agreed to an end, they made a bargain with the West, and it involved Odessa. The West would violate the bargain instantly and begin to arm Odessa and use it to set up attacks and just try to do this all over again. If I'm Russia, I say to myself, I'm not doing this a second time. This is not happening 5 years from now. This is not happening 10 years from now. I'm going to do, if you are going to fight me, you're going to have to do it now, because I'm taking everything that I want. And if you can stop me, good luck, because you're going to get nuked if you do. So you have to make a decision. If you want to fight me over Odessa, then you're going to have to give up Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, all of them. If it's worth giving up your entire country for one city in eastern Ukraine, that's what you're going to have to do, because you're going to have to fight me for Odessa and Kharkov and all of them. This is my border. I didn't come to Mexico. I didn't come to Toronto. You came to my border. I'm going to fight to protect my border one time. And either now you fight to get part of my border or never. If I'm Russia, that's what I think. This is the last time this is going down. I'm taking everything I want, and you're going to have to make the decision. That's my thoughts if I was in charge of Russia.
There's no doubt about that. And you see, I think they don't understand in the United States that they in some point of time will have to give up those cities in the United States. They think that it's Europe who's gonna pay. Well, it will be Europe. We are here on the another continent. So, well, France is gonna give up its cities, United Kingdom, Czech Republic, and all everything, other country. And I think that the United States is thinking that they will stay safe, and Europe will be the one who's gonna pay. So now it's Ukraine, and then okay, let it be Europe. But the thing is that the things are exactly like you said, because that's what they think. And you just pictured the way of uh, Russian way of thinking. No, 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 guys. It's not about what you think. It's about what we think. That's it. So you see, and there is, when we talk here in Russia with some of my colleagues and my friends who are into geopolitics, you see, we agree that there is no point to stop right now until you link Russian territory to Transnistria. There is no point, and who knows? Maybe Russia's government thinking, maybe they think that it's no point to stop before Ukraine is being limited to Western Ukraine. Who knows? You see, a lot of people consider Kiev to be Russian city because Russia started from Kiev. Moscow was built later. It was Kiev, Russia, you see, and who knows? Maybe they are thinking about the safety of Russia. They say, okay, there is no way it will be peaceful Ukraine if we stop now. To make sure Ukraine is safe and peaceful, we just have to move further. It's about it's a question of time. How fast? And what region should we take first? Those are technical questions. But I strongly believe, stronger than ever now, that that's what they think in Moscow now. And so that's why they're so desperate. Because they're seeing it. They are seeing it happening. And they're seeing that they cannot do anything but provoke a huge war in Europe. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that the United States thinks that US won't pay any price, and well, the consequences will be dire only for Europe. And they don't care about Europe, frankly. You see? Well, who cares? Who cares? Well, anyway, we are your friends, and yeah, until it's you see, until it's comfortable for us. Since we stop feeling comfortable, we are on, or you are on your own, and we are on our own. We stay home, and you do the fighting. That's what's always happening. That's what happened. You see, well, that's what happened in Vietnam. The outcome. What is outcome of Vietnam War? What's the outcome of Korean War? What's the outcome of Afghanistan? So what? What were the results? You know, I heard the Afghani telling myself, people who are about your age and maybe older, they were saying exactly like this: when Soviets came, we took them as invaders. But Soviets used to build roads. Soviets used to build hospitals, schools, other civilian facilities. What happened when Soviets went out of Afghanistan? Civil war. And then came Americans. What did Americans do? They destroyed everything, not only what Soviets built, but they destroyed basically the whole country. So you see, and that's what happens. That's what happens. And this is, yeah, that's what troubles me, because, right, they're in desperate situation. Who knows? Maybe they will pull knife and try to poke Russian bear with a knife, not killing him, because there is no chance to kill a bear with a knife. There is no chance, but there is big chance if you hurt bear with a knife, you go down, and the consequences will be dire.
Let me ask you this. In the past, there was fraught relations between China and Russia over the course of the years. They've had good relations. They've had some bad relations, right? They even had some
China and
skirmishes.
Russia, right?
Yes, China and Russia.
Right.
Now China and Russia have come together. It's obvious. The United States says we'll go after Russia first, and then we'll get China. Now there's some hawks saying, well, forget it. Let's end this Russian thing. We'll go after China, right? But what they still mean is this. We'll take Russia out, then we'll go get China. Oh, no, that's working. Let's reverse it then. We'll take China out, and then we'll go get Russia. You know what I mean? Both of them know that even if they said, let's make a deal with Russia and end this thing so we can go after China, that they would still have Russia as when they got finished with China, if it worked, which it wouldn't, then they go after Russia. Your thoughts on the historical issues that Russia and China have had? They in the past they didn't get along, but now it seems to be very, very different. Your thoughts on how things are changing? Do Russians trust the Chinese now? Do they understand that the Chinese and the Russians have, shall we say, a common adversary? Your thoughts on the Russia-China relationship today, based on everything we have going on?
Absolutely. You see, I would like to say a few words about the troubled Russia or Soviet-Chinese relations. Everything was just fine when Joseph Stalin was alive. Everything was just fine. Mao Zedong loved Stalin. He considered him a genius, and he considered him as a guru, as a mentor, as a teacher. So the relations deteriorated when Nikita Khrushchev came to power, and he made a decision to throw off Stalin's body from mausoleum. Lenin's, you see, there was Lenin's tomb, and then from Lenin's tomb, there was a Lenin and Stalin. So Mao Zedong saw that Khrushchev is seriously changing ways. Soviet Union lives on. So, and Mao Zedong was right. Nikita Khrushchev was basically an enemy of Soviet people, because the things he did were the basis of the destruction of Soviet Union. He dramatically changed the economic relations in the Soviet Union, and that's what Mao Zedong didn't like. So some serious deterioration between Soviet Union and China started. But anyway, there were still neighbor relations, trade, and mutual respect. Even at the time when China was the poorest state imaginable. Speaking about huge countries, maybe China was the poorest state on earth of a scale like that. But that all changed. And first of all, it changed with the relationship of two leaders. Well, the leadership, when it started with Hu Jintao, as far as I remember, Hu Jintao, the author of Chinese new economic policy. And that, as a chain reaction, changed the Chinese way to see other countries. And then, well, when there were no dramatic territorial issues between China and Russia, and then we came to understanding that as neighbors, we are good friends, good neighbors, and we need each other. That's why Scott Ritter, in last year, he said that China and Russia don't need to sign any treaty. Treaty is just like handcuffs. As you sign it, you're obliged to do certain things. China and Russia don't need that, because it's mutual, it's friendship. When one is in trouble, the other just comes and helps. There is no doubt about that. That's what we see now. So everybody is throwing, stones into China. China supplies Russia with weapons, so on and so forth. No, we have a lot of our own weapons, but China does a lot of other things which friends do. So I believe, genuinely believe, that there is no way that one can come after Russia and then come after China, and vice versa. Anyone hits comes after China, Russia helps. And God help you, because no one other would help on this planet but the God, and vice versa. So when Russia in need, China will help. And I genuinely believe that maybe Iran also will come too. And as we all know, that Serbia and which other countries? Serbia and Turkey announced that they are planning to join BRICS. What's it saying? It says that this economic union will support one another. Every country in this economic union will support another country. So that means that maybe the whole BRICS bloc, it will be more than China and Russia. So I believe Iran is very likely to help either China or Russia when it comes to real needs. So they try to heat up and to set Taiwan in flames, but there is no way. There is no way. I don't remember such patient countries as Russia and China. China is so patient, so it scared the hell out of many. Because patience, calm and cold patience, it scared the hell out of your opponent. What it says that you're absolutely sure what the outcome will be, and you're absolutely sure in yourself. You believe in yourself. That means it's substantiated. So my take on China-Russia's relations, that those relations are really, really, really long-term. Since long ago, rather long ago, and the most recent history, and for many, many, many years to come. So I believe they. It's stupidity. It's stupidity, just unadulterated stupidity, to believe that you can go after China or after Russia. No, maybe a few decades ago, yes, that may be possible. Not now. Not now. Not for last 2 decades, and since then, that's what I
Let,
think.
let me ask you this. You're in Russia. There's a discussion, the US, the plan was to, I believe, that wasn't even really to fight Ukraine. If they had the usual neocon plan with Ukraine for this long war, their plan was they're going to start the war. Then the sanctions are going to wipe out Russia. And that's going to be the easy part. Within 6 months, the ruble will be rubble. Russia's economy will crash. That was the plan. And when that didn't work, really, they didn't know what to do. All of this now is just trying to figure out what happened. It's like, I'll never forget, I was watching a movie and some people had a plan, and one of the guys looked at him. He goes, "What do we do now?" He says, "What's the plan now?" He says, "Run." He said, "Running ain't a plan. Running is what you do when your plan doesn't work," right? Well, that's kind of where they are. They're just running. Well, what was the plan? We were going to destroy the Russian economy. What do we do now? Oh, now we'll try this or this or this. Okay. You're in Russia. Some people are say, well, Russia's economy has really grown and you can see a difference in Russia. Other people say, no, that's all propaganda. Russia's economy is really doing very poorly, blah, blah, blah. In your day-to-day life, you lived through the Soviet Union. You lived through the 90s where the economy, everything crashed. You've lived through different times. Can you see an improvement or a deterioration or a difference in the economy since the special military operation started, since the economic attack against them by the US empire and its response? Do you see a difference in day-to-day, the way the economy is going, an improvement, a deterioration, whatever?
Well, you see, that's a really good question. And running a little bit ahead, I just said this. I'll say this. I have never seen Russia to be so prosperous as now. Throughout my whole 50 years of my life, and I remember myself pretty clear, since I was 2 years and a half. I'm not kidding. Yes, that's what I mean. I have a really, really clear memories of my childhood since I was 2 years and a half. I learned to read on my own before I turned 4. So yes, I have a good memory. I remember, and I'm 50. I'm turning 51 in just a couple of months. So I've never seen Russia to be so prosperous as now. Yes, in the Soviet Union, it was brilliant. It was good. It was, you could plan for decades ahead. There was a stability. The thing which we would like to bring into our life now, because many uncertainties make us nervous now. But anyway, we see that we are improving so good. There's no doubt about that. I remember when the Soviet Union crashed, it was so 90s came and Yeltsin came to power. I remember what was going on. So I lost my chance to serve as an officer in Russian army. Well, at some point, I knew that there was no coming back. Well, for many reasons, and maybe thank God I lost this chance because I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you now. I would be sure I would be dead decades ago. So I'm not gonna say anything about more about that, but that's for sure. I wouldn't be alive now. I would be one of many dead young lieutenants who didn't. I know a lot of guys who didn't make it. So, uh, and starting with the beginning of, you see, after 2001, I started seeing huge steps ahead. Huge. So we did have an economic collapse in 1998, as you remember, that Russian ruble fell really down. And those were a few terrible years. But then I started seeing real improvements. And I've never been a person with good income. Well, right now I've been kicked out of my job because Russian liberals are still strong in Russia, and I lost my job just recently for being myself, for having views what I have. So it's it's not picnic to be Russian in Russia, Russian patriot in Russia, because we are we have such a tyrant in power that political opponents, are so strong here. They can do what they do. So you see how tyrannic Russia is. They can kick out from the governmental institution a specialist and get away with it absolutely. So I started seeing economic improvements. I've never been a rich person, but I felt how better life is becoming. And now, right now, well, there was a problem when the war started. There were some problems with the, you see, even the paper price just hit the ceiling. Because the chemicals for whitening paper were brought from Europe, and you see, they started selling this really cool looking yellowish paper for the offices, for printers, so forth, office paper. I mean, but in a couple of months, the price went back to normal, sometimes even cheaper, and the paper, well, turned back to white. And some people really started asking at the stores, "Oh, where can we buy this yellowish good paper? What's going on?" And they said, "Nothing's going on. Our chemical industry just started to produce those chemicals in huge amounts and no problem. So we've got a lot of wood, we've got a lot of paper. Okay, okay, we'll notice that and we'll ask to, well, buy in some more yellowish paper if you like it." And you see, they started selling European cars. Well, Chinese cars started selling brilliant cars, brilliant pieces of machinery. Really, Russian car industry is improving. We make good cars, and we started making our faster. We started way faster developing our jet engines, different types for heavy jets, for middle class jets, and so on and so forth. And soon Russia will get rid of every Boeing and Airbus plane whatsoever. I think in 10 or 15 years, there will be no Boeing or any European aircraft, but flying from Europe. I mean, Russian air companies will start using only Russian aircraft. So, what can I say? When I you see, when I want something done, I mean the paperwork. What I do, so I take some documents, papers, go to some facility, government facility, make appointment. Then when the day comes, I go there, stay in the line a few hours. Then I'm getting to know that something wrong is with my paperwork, and I come back, and so on and so forth. For a few years already in Russia, we do it from our smartphone. We getting lots of documents made just with one click. This system was implemented in Russia a few years ago. You didn't have to leave your house. Governmental documents. So about whether you have been prosecuted or not. So you have sometimes you have to present the document when you apply for the job, whether you have been prosecuted ever or not. So punch one button on your smartphone, you get this document, and everybody knows that this is verified governmental document. So people send donations to each other, support other people with clicking just one button on the smartphone, just electronically. And our banking system is one of the best and well improved electronically, technologically in the world. So you see, I was shocked how improved our services. I mean, the fast food companies, restaurants, other facilities, anything. Just when so a few years ago, well, like 15 or 20 years ago, some guys said, we will never have service like that, like in America and in this country. We will never, because Russians will never get used to work like that. Okay, we're here now. We are here now. The high class service at any point. So, and by the way, just today, we did have a conversation with a person I know. He's a journalist. And he said, you see, one strange thing which I noticed in every city, when you go to Burger King, I buy Angus or I forgot the name of the other burger in Burger King. That doesn't matter. So I buy burgers. They're really tasty, but the taste is different. In Siberia, it's this. In European part of Russia, it's different, and in the eastern part of Russia, it's interesting and different kind. And I say, you know, that in the United States, McDonald's was always going to that, well, trying to reach this level. So any place in the United States, when you buy a burger in McDonald's, it tastes absolutely equally. And it triggered some changes in feeding the cows. And that triggered some problems. There was a documentary, Food Corporation and Food Incorporated, as far as I remember. So there were problems. What's in Russia? In every region, Burger King, Rustics, former KFC, and Tasty, and that's it. Former McDonald's used to buy from local farmers. Natural, absolutely ecological and natural meat. That's why it tastes different in different regions, first of all. And that's why it's really nutritious and absolutely no harm to eat that. So the only thing which I don't like to eat in Burger King is French fries. It's really, yeah, it's not good for your health, but a good tasty burger, no sir. That's for me. And I never deny myself a real good Whopper, the name of the Whopper or
Yeah.
Angus,
So Burger
especially
King's still open. It sounds to me like a lot of the restaurants and the places that were former Western, basically my understanding is Russia has just, when they left, Russia took them over. Russia has a similar um menu, same types of things. I've heard some say that the Russian menu for the new McDonald's, their new, is better than the old one. That it's different, but that they're doing well. That almost all of those restaurants, rather than just closing, Russia took them over, replaced the thing so people can still go in and get whatever it was they got before.
right. And you know what? Now those restaurant owners, the franchise owners, they are not obliged to do as the franchise owner from the West says. They do their own menu, so they're doing a real good things. Well, cakes with cherry cakes and different things on the menu. Really good, more traditional, more Russian traditional food, more like, and it's more nutritious. It's really tasty, and it's really good. So there is no limitations. They say maybe we'll just differ the menu. Maybe we'll just take off that and do something new. Why not? And so they started selling sometimes. Um, no, it's in a different network. So yeah, and different things are implied, and that's great because this is our own. Yes, the traditional burger is great, and the recipe is traditional, no problem. But I believe that in a few, well, maybe month or weeks, maybe they will come up with some Russian burger or Belarusian burger with special Belarusian pancakes. Well, guys, pick up the idea. So if you're listening to us, I believe that would be really great. So yeah, and I remember then Tucker Carlson made his short documentary type about Russian fast food restaurant. You do remember it too? He
Yes,
was
yes.
he said just, oh wow, it's tasty. It's not good for you, but it's really tasty. It's good. He is an American, tried it and said, okay, it's a high class food. So yeah, and I believe that, well, we see it all over. You see, we see it all over. Absolutely. So
Um,
mhm.
well, that's been an hour. I'm going to get ready to run myself. Let me
Okay,
ask you a question before I go. We only have a minute or two because I have to go into
okay.
work. Channels like this, stuff like shows like this, my
Mhm.
show, other people's. Do people see this stuff in Russia? Did people? I mean,
Mhm.
you're in Siberia. Would somebody in Siberia ever watch this channel or see what's going on here?
Are you serious? Are you serious? Everybody in Siberia knows Garland Nixon. Trust me on this. I'm not kidding. Ask lots of people who are interested in what's going on. They know Garland Nixon. People, when we first did our very first interview back then, back in time, and I got those questions. Hey, Dmitri, you know Garland Nixon? Wow. So a lot of people are translating your show. Mostly they using these robotic
Mhm.
translations and voicing over. Doesn't matter. People watching you because you see, we are in Russia of huge interest of opinions, of independent opinions like yours, like Scott's, like those people who talk at Judge's channel, and you see
Ray McGovern, Ray
Ray
McGovern,
McGovern,
very good friend
absolutely,
of mine.
and Gilbert Doctorow. I can continue.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I can tell you this: in Russia, you as big as, let's say, Clayton Morris, and maybe, well, maybe as Tucker Carlson, because you're absolutely well known here. I'm not exaggerating. It's not, trying to say something that you. I'm just telling you this. People know you. People discussing your show. People are watching your show in translation. Many people watching in original. So, and people thanking other people for translating your show. What can
Oh, well,
I?
thank you very much. I'm glad. Wow, that's a surprise. But I'm glad that because there are a lot of people like me, and a lot of the people that you named who, here's the truth. We're just saying what we honestly think, based on, history, based on what we see, based on what we hear, based on what we read. And, a lot of the media, Western media now, the Los Angeles Times, CNN, they're laying people off. They're
I
shutting
know that.
things down. Why is that? Because you can turn on any of them. They're all the same. You get the same story. Before we go, I'll tell you this. VJ Prashad, I remember him saying that during, the Trump administration or whatever, they had dropped this big bomb they dropped in Afghanistan. They called it the Moab, the mother of all bombs, just a big bomb they rolled out, and they blew up, much of, an area. And he said that the Washington Post had an article on it all about it. And that there were people in the audience who were, people like me, asking questions, taking notes. And they said, okay, this is what you know about it. Where did you get that information?
Mhm.
Certainly, it's reasonable to ask the Washington Post, you wrote an article. What is your source? Okay. They wouldn't say, people kept asking. And finally, they admitted the Pentagon. So here you have the Washington Post writing an article, and their source was the Pentagon, which I might add is not wrong, as long as you say my source was the Pentagon. If I write an article and I say Dmitri Zolotarev said this, it may be something controversial or whatever. It's fair. I'm not trying to hide anything,
Absolutely.
right? You watch my channel. I'm not trying to hide anything. This is what I know. This is what I think. This is my opinion. It may be wrong. Okay. But what we don't have anymore is media. They won't tell us the government said this, and now I'm saying it. The most they'll say is unnamed anonymous government officials
Mhm.
said whatever. That's half the
That
articles that
never
we read.
exists.
Right. So when I read that, here's what I think. Unnamed government officials probably wrote this article and gave it to you, and you just put it in there. They didn't tell you this. They wrote the damn article, right? So at any rate, I think that's why a lot of people are going to Garland, Nixon, or Jimmy Dore, or Judge Nepal, whoever the case may
Absolutely.
be, to see it, because we may
Absolutely.
not be right, we may not be wrong, but at least we're trying to tell them the best.
We are people after all. We may do mistakes. We may take something wrong. But you see, until you are a man of honor, your mistakes don't matter.
Yeah.
Unless, well, since you are an honorable person, that's what people will come to. That's whom people are listening to. Honorable people. Do they do mistakes? Absolutely, every day, every time. But because they are honorable people, they are trying to get it right.
I had a guy, I have a couple of radio shows in Washington, D.C. One of them, I didn't think that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. So the week before they said, is Russia going to invade Ukraine? I said, I don't think so.
The
So someone
same,
called
the same
and
about me. Just the day before it happened, I
yes.
was sure they won't happen.
Yeah. So someone called me the next day and said, well, the next week, last week on the show, they wouldn't attack Ukraine, and they did. I said, yes. He says, what do you have to say? I said, I was wrong. It's not a crime to be wrong. It's
No,
a crime not to admit that you're wrong.
absolutely,
That's all it is. Based on this
absolutely.
and this and this is what I thought. I was wrong. I had a guy to me say, Garland, you used to be a Democrat and you thought the Democratic Party was great. And I said, yes. He says, and now you've come over to my side and you don't like any one of the parties. He said, yes. He says, what do you have to say? I said, I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know There were things that I believed 20 years ago that 20 years later now I look at it and say I was wrong. Right now, I'm a firm believer. I've made this argument. When this conflict is over, the Ukrainian people will not be mad at Russia. They will be mad at the West. When it's over, now certainly they're the Banderites, we know who they are. But I'm not talking about the Banderites. I'm talking about the masses of people will look at the United States and say, look what you did to us. You threw us into a cage with a bear, and you knew we were going to get mauled by the bear. And you did it on purpose. And you just walked away and left us starving. That the Ukrainians will have to look at Russia next door and say, you are a rich, wealthy superpower next door, and we are starving. Can you help us? Can you provide us food? Can you help us? Because they're going to be desperate, and the West is going to walk away. When they are no longer of any use, when Russia is finished, when the U.S. is finished with them, when there's nothing left they can do for the U.S. will do what they've always done. They will walk away and leave them to starve. They'll do the same thing to Europe.
Absolutely.
And that the Ukrainians will then wake up, and probably other parts of Europe will wake up and look at Russia and say, we've been had. We were wrong. I'm a firm believer in that. But here's what I have to say. Could I be wrong? I could be. I don't think I am. I think there are a lot of other people that feel the same thing. We only got about a minute or two. I got to get ready to go. But you get you'll get the last comment on that.
Absolutely, Garland. Absolutely. And we hear a lot of sane voices in the Parliament of Germany, from Serbia, Robert Fico. Thank God he survived.
Yes.
And I believe you're absolutely right. When this all happens, and it happens soon, a lot of people in high places also, they will wake up and they will start speaking different. Even, I believe, Macron and other guys from this bunch will start talking different, because they will understand Europe has to survive too. That's what I think.
Here's what I'm going to do. I just had one of our people in the chat asked this question. What I'd like to do is do another show with you next week and open the floor for questions. Say to our people who are in the chat who are watching, give us some questions so we can ask you questions that people out there are thinking. I'm sure they'll come up with some really good questions. Would you be open for that?
I would love to do that. That's
excellent.
Really
we'll do that next week.
That's what makes the show alive.
Yeah, exactly, that we can interact with the people. Okay, everyone in the chat. So next week, think about what your good questions might be. We'll get together with Dmitri again. We'll ask him some questions. It's great to talk to someone who is in Russia, to get a view from the inside of Russia of how people feel, how people think. I think that is important. All we get in the United States is as Scott said, this is Russia's red line. Russia never says it's their red line. Then we say we crossed Russia's red line. Well, we created the red line. Then we crossed the red line. And then we said we crossed Russia's red lines. They're not Russia's red lines. So we're going to talk about various things. Thanks a lot, everyone. You have where can people find you online, Dmitri?
Sorry?
Where can people find you online?
Online. They just can Google this name, Dmitri Zolotarev, and at Daily Planet. Dmitri Zolotarev, Daily Planet. So
all right.
They will find me.
Well, tell your friends in Siberia, all of them, that Garland Nixon said hi. How's that? I said hello.
I'll make sure to tell all my audience in Russia that.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me. See you
all
soon.
Right, everyone. Don't forget, you see everything scrolling across the bottom. If you can donate to the channel, that's great. If not, just share this on all your social media platforms with all your friends. Have a wonderful day. We're out.